Are you cute? Do you want to teach them about the English language? Do you want to teach them? Do you want to? What do you think? No pets? Okay. Pets for you. And then we go back to teaching English. Okay, so hi. All right, so I wanted to make some review videos for you to help you understand specific concepts that are going to be on the test, especially if maybe you've had to be absent because you were sick, or maybe it's just a difficult concept for you to master. So this first video is going to be about intonation. It's going to be about intonation that indicates surprise, and it's also going to be about intonation that indicates interest in a conversation, that helps keep a conversation going. All right. But first, let's start with surprise. So earlier in the unit, we were doing a listening about identity theft and about how a woman had her information stolen and then had to follow up with the stores and with the police, and it was a big to-do, let's say. We talked about intonation insofar as you can hear the surprise in someone's voice based on the way the intonation sounds, right? I feel like I'm being very wordy about this when I don't really need to be, but let's break it down here for a second. So, if someone said $5,000, a diamond ring, you don't hear any surprise in their voice, do you? No. But if someone says, $5,000, a diamond ring, then you can hear the surprise. The intonation of surprise tends to be smooth, a dip, and up, and a dip. Smooth and dip, up and dip. So, $5,000, a diamond ring. You hear it? Additionally, and usefully enough, this intonation of surprise can also be helpful when you want to keep a conversation going. So we learned about some specific words and phrases that are often used to indicate interest in a conversation. First of all, there's somebody at my door. Hold on a second. There was somebody at my door. There's no longer somebody at my door. Anyway, so when it comes to keeping a conversation going, more than just the words you use is important, more than just your intonation is important. You also have to convey a sense of interest with your body language. So if you are very closed off and you're not making eye contact with a person, that can indicate a certain level of shyness, or it could also be seen as somewhat disinterested. So if I'm talking to a student and that student is not looking at me and has their arms crossed and is just like staring at their desk, that indicates disinterest. But if I'm talking to a student and they have an open posture and they're looking at me, that means that they're engaged and they're engaging, right? There's a cat behind the monitor, so if you see a cat tail, that's what that is. But yes, so you also want to indicate that you are engaged verbally. And some of the different phrases that you can use to show that you're listening to someone include, yeah? You hear it go up at the end, yeah? Or, uh-huh. That goes up at the end as well, that rising intonation. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. And then with falling intonation, right. Or wow. All right. There are times when you can use right with rising intonation, but that intonation would tend to indicate that you have heard them and agree with them, but you also then plan to make a statement. So if I was talking with a coworker and they were telling me a story, and I said, right, I would then contribute to the conversation rather than asking them to go on. If I want them to keep talking, then it would be that following intonation of right. Additionally, if you want to encourage a speaker to keep talking, you can use different phrases like, yes, go on. Yes, go on. You hear that falling intonation. You can use and with that rising intonation. And what happens next? And you can say, so, and that indicates engagement. You could say, and then what? And then what? With that falling intonation. And then you could say, so what did he do? What did she do next? So what happened next? Right? With that falling intonation as well. Now, intonation is very important with words and phrases like these because you can say the right word, but if you say it with the wrong intonation, it gives off a completely different meaning, completely different vibes, as it were. So if we are having a conversation and you're telling a story and I respond with, and, that gives off very different vibes than and. Or if I say, uh-huh, 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 that's very different than uh-huh, with that rising intonation. So, and with that flat sort of falling intonation really indicates disinterest. It's signaling to the speaker that you want them to stop, and it is rather impolite, as a matter of fact. Similarly, uh-huh is very rude as well. It indicates a lack of engagement. It signals that you're not really listening and you don't really care. But with the rising intonation on those words, it does just the opposite. Additionally, sometimes, going back to that intonation of surprise or expressing surprise in general, a person might indicate their astonishment with a portion of conversation by saying, no way. And if a person says, no way, that indicates they want you to keep talking. They want you to tell them more. They're indicating their surprise, right? Okay. So this concept is really important because the intonation of expressions of engagement is so important when it comes to conversation. So I want you to review this material on page 44 of your textbook and page 45 of your textbook and get with me if you have any questions. Practice conversation with your English speaking friends using the correct tones to express, intonations, not tones, using the correct intonation to express engagement.